It started with a notification. A like. Nothing unusual. Then a message. Casual. Almost forgettable. But it came too quickly. Then another. And another. Until it wasn't just responding anymore. It was remembering things I never shared. At first, it felt like attention. Then, it felt like coincidence. And then, it felt like something was watching me from somewhere closer than it should have been.
Welcome to Ethereal Echoes. Tonight's story begins in silence, the kind that doesn't feel empty, but waiting. A phone on the table, notifications humming softly, a lamp faintly buzzing on a low industrial hum filling the air, and someone or something watching. A cup of coffee, a reflection, a presence that doesn't move but notices you. If you find yourself drawn to these moments and want to listen ad-free, you can join us on Patreon, where the full experience continues uninterrupted. Settle in, dim the lights, and whatever you do, don't look away. I staged my mornings as if someone was always watching. That Friday, the air outside my window had a blue window cleaner chill, and the steam above my mug curved like a gentle, familiar hand. I made a habit of documenting these little rituals, the way the crema swirled on the surface, the neat composition of my favorite chipped mug against the raw pine table. An influencer without influence, a follower, a lone magpie nesting in the wires of my own feed. I snapped a photo at 11:46 a.m. Sunlight made a patchwork of shadows across my kitchen, hatching darkness in the hollows of my wrist and between the crooks of my fingers. I placed my phone on the stand and centered the shot, letting the world outside drift into a white blur while my coffee, rich and lacquered, sat in focus. I edited the exposure, touched up the grain, layered on a faint sepia to lend the moment of false nostalgia. Caption, work pause, #cozy, #creature of habit. Even before my thumb left the screen, the notification bloomed. Watcher01 liked your post. The rush of dopamine was Pavlovian, a tiny spasm in my throat, a shadow-quick relief that someone, somewhere, had looked. Then, a DM, bolded and urgent, as though the message had been waiting in queue for my photo to exist. Watcher01, nice mug, busy day. My phone vibrated against the table, a muted animal sound, the kind you hear through two closed doors. I let the DM sit for a moment, as I did with all the others, pretending to be busy, to not be owned by my own compulsions. I moved through the apartment, my thin gray socks making a wet whisper against the hard wood. I could feel the message watching me, the way one senses a spider suspended above the bed, invisible but defiant. I responded after 13 minutes. The delay, deliberate, meant to suggest that I was living a life worthy of interruption. Me, not that busy, honestly. I'm just trying to power through the end of the week slog. Watcher replied in less than 5 seconds, a record even for him. I thought of the Watcher as a him. Tho's profile photo was of a cartoon sheep, and the bio was nothing but a black single heart. Watcher 01. The light in your kitchen is nice. North facing? I looked up, as if to confirm. I'd never posted a photo wide enough to reveal the windows, or which direction they'd faced. But I'd once, maybe 6 weeks prior, mentioned something about a winter sunset, how it never quite hit my bedroom in the evenings. The Watcher remembered. That unsettled me, though it shouldn't have. The internet was built on the bones of memories, after all. Me. Yep, good eye. Makes the room feel bigger than it is. I didn't have to wait long. Another ping. This one with a photo attached. A screen grab, my own coffee post, overlaid with the comment, north-facing windows always make the best light. I felt, briefly, as though a finger had tapped on the back of my neck. I laughed not at the joke, but to reassert my role as the clever, unbothered user, the captain of my digital ship. Me, you're a photographer or just a lighting nerd? Watcher 01. Just observant. I like how you set up your shots. You've got style. Compliment or surveillance? The line was as thin as a filament, quivering but unbroken. I returned to the kitchen and ran my finger along the rim of my mug, thinking of the Watcher's eyes passing over every crumb, every errant lock of hair I'd meant to smooth away. I wondered what his space looked like. Did he arrange his mornings for an unseen audience? Did he live alone? Another message landed this time, slower, as if he considered whether to send it at all. Watcher 01, you looked tired in your story this morning. Everything okay? I scrolled back through my own feed. In the 7-second video story, my face was only a blur in the reflection of the microwave door. A specter caught mid-yawn. How many times had he watched it? Did he screen record? Did he replay the moment my eyelids fluttered, searching for a crack in my mask? Me. LOL. Just late night Netflix. I'm fine. Promise. Watcher 01. I hope you get some rest. Big weekend plans? I didn't answer right away. I let the blue bubble hang in suspension, its question mark a lure and a hook. I set my phone face down and closed my eyes, listening to the silence in my apartment, punctuated only by the hissing radiator and the far-off laughter of the neighbor's child, filtering through 2 layers of plaster wall. Watcher always found me first. Every post, every story, every late-night tweet or half-hearted meme. I started to anticipate his responses, the way one might expect the old grandfather clock to chime on the hour. At first, it was flattering. A little crowd of two, conjured from the void. Then, it became a game. How fast could I make him respond? And how far could I push the friction of us as equals? I waited 21 minutes before replying, letting my hunger for attention throb and recede. I scrolled through the watcher's own account, a graveyard of like posts, no content of his own, just a series of cryptic comments on other people's feeds. Sometimes he'd tag me, linking my name to a photo of a dog in a sweater, or a news story about sleep disorders. Never any personal photos, never any clues. His just observant made me shiver. Who paid attention so closely, and for what? I tried to recall if I've ever invited him in, or if he'd simply appeared one day at the top of my notifications. A benign ghost who grew bolder with every day. Me, just catching up on work. Maybe go outside if it's not too cold. Watcher 01, bundle up. You don't want to get sick. I stared at the last message, feeling the shadow of a smile flicker on my lips. It was the tone. Too warm for a stranger, too intimate for a follower. I wondered if he ever messaged anyone else like this, or if his devotion was a secret tailored just for me. I typed, "Who are you really?" and deleted it. I typed it again, then erased the question, letting it dissolve in the digital ether. Instead, I wrote, "Me, you're so sweet. Thanks for checking in." The exchange should have ended there, but it didn't. Watcher 01, I'm always here if you need someone to talk to. I lay back on the couch, letting the phone rest on my chest, the cold glass a heartbeat away from my own. I tried to listen for the apartment's steady breathing, for the creaks and sighs of its old bones. In the quiet, I became aware of a faint, insistent hum. The refrigerator, maybe? Or the buzz of the world beyond the window. It grew louder as I closed my eyes, as if the silence itself was pressing in, watching, waiting. I thought of the watcher, sitting at his own table, sipping his own coffee, eyes fixed on my every move. I imagined him as a camera in a forgotten room, as a hand poised to reach through the screen and stroke the rim of my mug, to press a palm against the nape of my neck. I tried to laugh, but the sound was thin, a brittle shell that cracked and vanished in the air. I posted a new story, a selfie in soft focus, tongue out, a caption reading, "Sleep is for the weak." Within seconds, Watcher 01, don't let the monsters get you. I stared at the message, waiting for it to make sense. After a while, I blocked him, then unblocked him, then blocked him again. The way a child might peer from behind a door, daring the darkness to move closer. Outside, the day was already losing light, the kitchen receding into a shadow box of shapes and memory. I left my phone on the kitchen table and watched as the last rays of sun bled out against the floor. knowing that somewhere, someone had marked the exact moment I stepped away. The next time I looked at my phone, it was nearly dark. My eyes were sticky from a half nap, and I fumbled for the screen, thumbs smearing the glass with dream oil and static. Notifications bloomed like fungi in the undergrowth. A string of likes, a DM, 2 new followers, all knotted together by the familiar sheep avatar of Watcher 01. But directly beneath it, a stranger's name, Mirror Watch. The profile photo was an empty circle, white as a milk's tooth. And the bio, see you, see me. I squinted, thinking I'd imagined it. The hunger for surveillance, now spawning in the dark like spores. I clicked through. Mirror Watch had 0 followers, 0 posts, but had already liked my latest selfie and commented, "Cool mug," with the same sleepy cat emoji Watcher uses religiously. I scrolled up. My own morning post now doubled in the thread, a pair of echoes. DM alert again, this time not from Watcher, but from Mirror. Mirror Watch. Nice mug. Busy day. A chill traced the exact path of my spine, as if my vertebrae were tiny ice cubes josted in a glass. I scrolled through the thread, cross-referencing as if I'd catch myself in the act of hallucination. But the messages were perfect replicas. The same punctuation, the same offbeat timing. Only the name was different. Watcher and Mirror, like 2 halves of a coin rolling in a gutter. I tried to laugh. Maybe this was Watcher's other account, a backup from when he got blocked, or a prank. Or maybe, I thought, Watcher had found a friend, and they were playing at haunting me together. Still, I answered. Me, deja vu much? You guys related or something? LOL. Within a minute, both Watcher and Mirror replied in stereo. Watcher 01, we just both like your posts. Mirror Watch, we just both like your posts. The symmetry was clinical, almost surgical in its precision. I stared at the screen, searching for hairline cracks, maybe a typo, a variant in the emoji choice, a slip in the cadence. But they were seamless, 2 overlapping shadows, indistinguishable except for their names. I swiped over to Mirror's profile, hoping for a clue. A repost, a candid, a tag that would reveal the curtain and the operator behind it. But the grid was empty. No friends, no history, no mutuals except me and Watcher. I clicked back into my DMs. There, in the waiting bubble, Mirror had sent another message. No greeting, no context, just a statement. Mirror Watch. Bet it was cold by the river on Saturday. My mouth went dry. The coffee post was from this morning. The river was never mentioned. Not on my feed, not in any story or tweet. Saturday, I'd gone for a walk. Just me, the swans, and the rib cage curve of the muddy embankment. I'd left my phone at home, determined to remember the moment with my own unreliable hardware. No geotags, no check-ins, not a soul around. The words pulled at me, slow and sinuous. I retraced the memory, the slap of my boots on the frozen path, the breath turning solid in the air. I remember glancing over my shoulder once, out of animal habit, sure that no one was behind me. I closed the app, waited for the tremor to pass. The apartment felt tighter, as if the walls had lost their insulation and were pressing in, unsympathetic. For a minute, I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the algorithm, a crawl bot, or a fluke in the code that knitted social media ghosts from stray bits of data. Maybe I posted a river photo in the past, and Watcher, or Mirror, had pieced together a timeline with a scavenger's diligence. Or maybe this was how loneliness worked. Echoes in digital dark, calling back to each other with borrowed voices. I couldn't help myself. I opened the app again. DMs from Watcher and Mirror had resumed their careful, uncanny echo, though now with a minute's delay between them, as if the second was waiting for a signal. Watcher 01, that's my favorite river walk. Did you see any swans? I checked my old posts. No mention of swans, not once. I answered, feigning nonchalance. Me. There were a couple, yeah. I think they remember me from last time. Watcher's reply landed first, as always. Watcher 01. Animals remember more than we think. Then almost, as if on cue, Mirror. Mirror watch. Animals remember more than we think. I set the phone down, face up, unable to look away from the double helix of messages twisting tighter around me. Maybe I should have blocked them both. Maybe I should have gone outside, let the cold river air crack my paranoia like an egg. But instead, I refreshed, thumb trembling, waiting to see which watcher would move next and what else they'd know. A new notification. Mirror again. Mirror watch. Did you like the picture I drew? I scrolled up, confused. There was no picture, not in the thread, not in my feed. A second later, Watcher sent an image, a shaky, grayscale sketch, like something from an old sleep paralysis documentary. It was a coffee mug on a table, light fanning across the wood. In the glass of the kitchen window behind the mug, a face was visible, just barely. Eyes, nose, the black string of a mouth. It was my kitchen, rendered in strokes that felt both foreign and intimate, the kind of drawing you'd do if you'd seen the scene, not lived it. I couldn't remember posting anything with a reflection in the frame. I scanned the original photo, zoomed in, tried to enhance. Nothing, just the mug, the grain, the light. I stared at the image until my face felt strange to me, as if it belonged to the mug, or the phone, or to someone else entirely. The river inside me ran colder, wider, pulling at the banks of my own mind. I closed my eyes and imagined the watcher and the mirror sitting side by side in a dark room, scrolling, watching, waiting for my next move. And when I looked up, my apartment had gone fully dark, my own face reflected in the window like a ghost. I tried to reclaim the night with the illusion of routine. My desk, a plank balanced on 2 trembling IKEA units, huddled in the corner of the living room, littered with coffee rings and sticky note skeletons. I opened my laptop to finish a freelance report, fingers cracked and dry from obsessive hand-washing, eyes half-masted from a hunger that nothing online could feed. The glow of the screen was hospital clean, a rectangle of blue that pulsed against the dark. I typed my password. The machine woke with a shudder, then coughed up a flurry of pop-ups, updates, reminders, the stuttering persistence of windows needing to be seen. I ignored them, brain stuck in molasses. The page loaded. I started to type. Out of the corner of my eye, a new light flickered to life. A bead of red on the laptop's lid. The webcam indicator, shining like a fever in a child's cheek. I stared at it, felt my own face blanch and heat. I reached up to cover the lens, but the light winked off, bashful as a child caught spying. I let my hand drop. Was it always on by default? Did I leave it on for video calls? My memory, already saved like, now felt porous as lace. I scrolled back through the machine's activity. Last used? Never, unless I counted the rare Zoom calls with my mother, whose image always glitched to unrecognizable blocks. I tried to focus, to recapture my thought process, but the computer had started to rearrange itself. Files slid across the desktop, nestling into unfamiliar folders. I watched a document labeled Invoice 17 stutter, vanish, then reappear in the trash. I dragged it back out, but another file, Winter Portrait, jumped to replace it, like chess pieces on a haunted board. I closed the lid, breathed, counted the beats of my heart as they stuttered, then regained tempo. I reopened the computer. The desktop was almost empty now. A single file sat in the center. Its name changed. See you, see me. The icon was blank. I hovered, then double-clicked. Nothing happened, except the screen flickered. A ripple across the pixels like water skinning over ice. Then a password prompt, except my regular password wasn't accepted. I tried again. Error. Again. Error. I gave up, logged out, then instinctively reached for my phone, the comfort object of a digital infant. Thumbprint unlock, the home screen loaded with a soft, familiar hum. Notifications, 0. DMs from Watcher and Mirror, empty. For now. I felt an absurd loneliness in that silence. Then, a voicemail notification from an unknown number. I hadn't received a call, but the badge throbbed red, insisting I listen. I hit play. At first, nothing, just a static rush, the sound of an ocean pressed into a thimble. Then a voice, my own, unmistakable. "Hi, you've reached." But the words were off. Time stretched, syrupy, slurred on the edges like a tape warped by heat. The message played my own voicemail greeting, but the last word, "leave a message," became a drawn-out gargle, then a long, deliberate silence. Then a whisper, not mine, saying, "See you, see me." The line cut out with a brittle crack as the phone itself had snapped a bone. I paced the living room, turning in slow, stupid circles. The window reflected my movements, every flick of my hair, the rhythm of my jaw as I clenched and unclenched. I couldn't shake the sense that I was being filmed, even in the blank square of night. I texted a friend, half expecting the words to rearrange themselves before sending. "Do you ever feel like your devices are watching you?" She replied instantly, "LOL, always. They're always listening. That's why you get all those creepy ads for stuff you think about." I stared at the reply, feeling something close to grief. The ordinary world, with its ordinary rules, had slipped away, replaced by this doubling, watcher and mirror, watching and mimicking, always one step ahead. I sat at my desk, both screens now dark, and held myself absolutely still. I imagined every breath as data, every twitch of my finger or tongue as content for an audience I would never meet. I pictured the watcher and the mirror with their phantom faces, recording and rewinding, mining my selfhood for new ways to echo it back. I looked at the phone, at the badge of the voicemail, now erased, but still vivid in the soft meat of my brain. I said aloud to the empty room, "I see you." My voice sounded smaller than I remembered. My voice sounded, for the first time, like someone else. By evening, the world outside had shrunk to a dense, glass-black silence. I curled on the couch, huddled under the familiar weight of an old woolen throw, willing my heart to steady. My phone banished to the opposite end of the coffee table, pulsed quietly every few minutes, the notifications like distant thunder. I ignored them for as long as I could. When I picked it up, thumb reluctant and heavy, the new DM was waiting. From mirror, this time. It was a photo. At first, I didn't recognize the angle. A flat, slightly off-center shot, blurry around the edges. But then, I made out the details. The cheap vinyl siding, the tilt of the mailbox, the dim gold of the lamp I'd left burning in the front window. It was my apartment, my window, taken from the street below. In the foreground, faintly, the reflection of the phone held up to the glass. I ran to the window, pulling up the cheap plastic blind. The sidewalk was empty, the street lamp buzzing a dull halo over the curb. No cars, no figures, just the grid of windows, other people's lives behind glass, lit up like insect terrariums. I took a photo of the emptiness, uploaded it to my story, captioned, "Weird flex, but okay." It was the kind of joke you make when you're trying to judo flip your own fear. The likes rolled in immediately, most from bots and distant acquaintances, but from Watcher and Mirror, I almost expected that. I posted another, a selfie, tongue out, middle finger up in defiance. Watcher01, your hair looks amazing. Mirror Watch, your hair looks amazing. The double ping made me dizzy. I scrolled through their feeds again, still empty, void of content except for their obsession with mine. I set the phone aside, hands numb and cold, and paced the length of my apartment, trying to shake the sense that the rooms were shrinking around me. I decided to go live, not because I felt brave, but because the thought of controlling the gaze, owning the narrative, even briefly, was a sugar hit I suddenly craved. I set up the phone on the highest shelf, angled it to the warmest glow of my floor lamp, and let the comments pour in as the timer ticked down. Within seconds, 23 viewers. I greeted them, voice thin but practiced. "Hey creatures, we're doing a Q&A tonight. Ask me anything or tell me a secret, and I'll do the same." The feed filled with the usual nonsense. Show us your tattoos. What's your favorite kind of soup? Are you single? I performed. I laughed. I drank from my mug. Empty now, but no one needed to know. And barred my wrist to show the ink. A single black-petaled flower curled around the bone. I answered the soup question. Tomato, obviously. I told a story about a middle school sleepover, about the night we stayed up watching slasher movies and convinced ourselves the world outside the window was full of monsters, just waiting for the lights to flicker. The chat loved it. The hearts fluttered. For a few minutes, the energy in the room shifted. I felt less like prey, more like a ringmaster, coaxing the animals to clap and growl on command. Then, in the chat, a comment. "Mirror Watch. Who's standing at your door?" It was ignored at first, drowned in the flow of memes and emojis. Then another. Watcher01. Did anyone else see that? I forced a smile, the kind that hurts your cheeks. "You're all hilarious," I said. "No one's here but me and the ghosts in my Wi-Fi." But the comments kept coming, faster now. "Mirror Watch. Look behind you." Watcher01. I swear someone was there. Other viewers chimed in, emboldened by the suggestion. Guest 33. Oh my gosh, I saw it too. Boof for you. Your chat's haunted, LOL. I tried to laugh it off, but the sense of performance slipped. I felt the eyes on me multiply, their collective attention tightening like a fist around my throat. I turned to glance over my shoulder. An act, I thought, a bit of theater for the crowd. But for a second, the living room looked different in the lens of my phone. Elongated, uncanny, like a funhouse mirror. The shadows bent at the corners, stretching towards the entry. I ended the live abruptly, hands shaking, the after image of my own face lingering on the screen. For a long moment, I just sat there, listening. The apartment hummed with ordinary noises. The clack of the radiator, the refrigerator's sigh, but underneath, a deeper silence pooled. I walked to the door, feet silent on the rug, and looked through the peephole. Nothing, no movement in the hall, no footsteps, no whisper. Still, I flicked the deadbolt 3 times, an old childhood ritual. I returned to the phone, just in time to see a new story posted by Mirror Watch. It was a screen recording of my own live, but with the brightness dialed up. In the bottom right corner of the frame, so faint I wouldn't have seen it without the enhancement, there was a figure, a suggestion of movement, passing through the shadows behind me. My stomach turned to glass. I replayed it again and again, but each time the figure became less distinct, more like a trick of the light. I wanted to dismiss it, to write it off as an optical illusion, but the comments kept pinging in. Watcher 01, careful out there. Mirror Watch, beautiful tonight. I closed the app, set the phone down, face down, sat on the edge of the sofa, pulling the old blanket over my knees, as if it could shield me from whatever was already inside the apartment. For a long time, I just watched the window, waiting for another flash, another sign, but all I saw was the reflection of my own shape, haunched and small, made stranger by the streetlight's indifferent glow. The morning arrived, gray, muzzled, and reluctant, like a dog that didn't want to be walked. My phone's alarm stuttered me awake, but for a few soft seconds I lay flat, eyes open, listening to the hush that comes before an avalanche. I stretched, found the blanket tangled around my legs, and finally rolled out of bed, ankles cracking like old furniture. First thing, always check my phone. A reflex, deeper than thirst. I unlocked the screen. Overnight, nothing from Watcher, nothing from Mirror, no DMs, no comments, not even a new like. The silence, at first, felt like ceasefire. I opened Instagram. The login screen greeted me, bland and expectant. My password didn't work. I tried again, slower, careful as a surgeon. Error. Third try, locked out, account not found. I swallowed, then moved on to Twitter. Same story. My email too, gone, as if the whole system had peeled my name right off its skin. Recovery options pointed to an address I didn't recognize, a string of random characters ending in the hungry blankness of a foreign domain. I blinked, trying to steady my fingers. The world had rerouted itself around me, leaving a perfect person-shaped hole where I used to be. My posts, years of them, suddenly belonged to someone else, or to no one at all. I tried the send code button. Each time it spat out an error message, a bureaucratic spell that rendered me less and less real. I was being slowly erased, pixel by pixel. In a final act of defiance, I typed my own name into the search bars, hoping to glimpse myself from the outside. The accounts were still there, but the profile pictures were different. The old flower tattoo replaced by a static, heavy selfie. My own face distorted and smiling with too many teeth. The bios were rewritten. On Instagram, I know where you live. On Twitter, see you, see me. On my email recovery page, the new name, Watcher Mirror. A new story was posted to my old feed, the notification glowing spitefully. I opened it. The photo was of my apartment building, the same angle as last night, but taken in daylight. My own window, visible in the upper corner, the curtains drawn aside by a pale hand, the text overlaid in jagged white. Good morning. I sat down hard on the kitchen stool, the air gone sour and metallic in my mouth. I tried to text my mother, to warn her, to let her know that something was wrong with the world or with me. The message didn't send. I tried to call a friend, but the contact list had been wiped clean, replaced by numbers and names I'd never seen. One contact was simply labeled, "See me." I didn't call it. Instead, I watched my own story again and again, until the lines blurred and the image became just a pattern, a puzzle box with no solution. I found myself flickering at the edges, as if every moment of my life was being shuffled into a feed I could no longer control. I left my phone face down on the table. The apartment filled with the soft roar of my own breathing, the white noises of a life emptied of audience. I sat there, uncertain how to begin or what to save. Outside, the sky hung low and blank, pressing the world into a page as thin and featureless as a login screen. That night, the city bruised itself with a purple dusk, leaking sodium orange at the seams. I stayed late at the temp gig, shuffling invoices into an office that smelled like dying plants and printer toner. Every few minutes, I checked the phone, half expecting another round of eraser. But the notification stayed silent. My hand shook, my focus collapsing in on itself like a cheap umbrella. When I finally stepped off the bus, the streetlights were lit, and the sky hung low and wet. I ducked my head against the drizzle, keys knotted in my fist, and took the long way to my building. a detour to buy time, or maybe just to convince myself that nothing was waiting on the other side of my front door. The hallway inside was dark, the sensor light on the fritz again. I fumbled up the stairs, footsteps echoing like the memory of someone else's life. My door was ajar. A sliver of yellow from the entry lamp spilled into the corridor. A thin slice of home. I froze, senses flaring, then nudged the door wider with the toe of my boot. Inside the apartment was still, but the air felt different, muddled, uncertain, as if it had been stirred by an unfamiliar hand. My favorite lamp, the one with the bent metal shade, had been knocked sideways. The rug was bunched up, a ripple in the weave. On the kitchen floor, a shattered ceramic cup, my chipped blue mug, the one from every photo, spread its ribs across the tiles, dusting them with fine powder. I scanned the space, nothing missing, nothing out of place that I could name. The window was still locked, but the presence, the aftermath was everywhere. On the air, on my skin, in the urge to check every cupboard and closet. I forced myself to breathe, picked up the shards with bare hands, pressing the largest pieces into the trash. The grit cold and sharp against my palms. My phone buzzed. I looked, dreading what I'd see. A DM from Mirror. The preview was a video file. I opened it, bracing. The footage began with a close-up of my bedroom door. The camera's point of view, low, almost crawling. The shot lingered, then crept forward, the grainy pixelation swallowing the walls. It panned across the unmade bed, the nightstand littered with half-read books and a balled-up Kleenex. Then slowly, the lens drifted to my desk. The chair pulled out, the laptop screen black. As the camera focused, the desk chair began to move. Just a few centimeters, as if nudged by an invisible hand. The effect was subtle, almost artless, but it was enough to make my scalp prickle. The video cut out abruptly, the last frame lingering on the pale oval of my pillow. I backed into the living room, bone trembling in my hand. I played the video again, searching for a clue, a reflection, a voice, a sign of who or what had been in my space. But there was nothing, just the silent drift of the camera, the shifting chair, the promise that I was never alone. I set the phone down, cradled my elbows, and stood in the middle of the room, listening for the tick of danger. After a while, I began to tidy. I rightened the lamp, brushed the rug flat, swept up the last of the cup. I remade my bed, tucking the sheets with hospital corner precision. I wiped the kitchen counters, organizing the spoons and forks until the drawer closed without a sound. It was a small, foolish thing, but it helped. The world did not feel restored, but at least it was intact for resistance. However minor, against the creeping disorder. Later, I sat at my desk, laptop open but lifeless. The camera now covered with a strip of masking tape. I watched the window for a long time. The outside world fogged and distant. My own reflection stared back, distorted by the glass. I wondered if it was still me, or just the memory of myself, flickering through the feeds and wires, a ghost in my own machine. I wondered, too, if the watcher and the mirror were satisfied, or if they'd want more, if the act of watching me was enough, or if they hungered to become me, to wear my habits and my skin like a mask. I looked at my phone one last time, thumb hovering over the delete button, but I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I waited as the night pulled itself tighter around the building and the city hummed a lullaby for the lost. I vanished offline for 72 hours. No compromises, no weaning. I yanked the phone's life cord, sealed it beneath rotting receipts, and knotted cables in the bottom drawer. The router, unplugged, zip-locked under the sink, dead and forgotten. Day 1, agonizing. My fingers twitched, a phantom craving, the electric itch of connection. In my head, a mad hamster wheel hunting for pings. Like any proof, I still existed. I devoured battered paperbacks, scattered jigsaw puzzles, crosswords abandoned mid-ink. I scrawled in a battered notebook, each stroke carving a hidden realm that belongs solely to me. Day 2, I learned to breathe without narration. Outside, the city moved in raw motion. Buses hissing like wounded beasts, pigeons tearing at scraps, clouds skidding across an iron sky. My apartment, freed from its digital heartbeat, felt carnivorous and alien, a shell awaiting its rightful owner. Day 3, maybe I'd won. My sleep grew deep, populated by silent corridors and empty rooms where no one watched. I wandered riverbanks, letting gusty wind peel away the mental fog. I believed I was free. Then, dawn of day 4, I cracked. I woke before sunrise, heart pounding, convinced the phone was inert, a harmless block of glass. I pried open the drawer, plugged it in, and watched the screen flicker like an awakening eye. The aftermath was a grotesque landscape, a mountain of updates, missed calls, spam bleeding through every notification. No messages, no ghosts from old feeds. Silence so hollow it gnawed at my skull. Until a single chime, a new follower on an app I never touched. Familiar. Its icon was blurry but intentional. My face, black lit, eyes gleaming with something feral. I tapped. The profile lay empty save for that shifting portrait. It morphed in real time. Lips sealed, lips parted, a grin splinting skin, a tongue sliding over teeth. It was me in a warped replica, a digital doll stitched from my discarded scraps. In the bio, 3 chilling words. Here for you. The timeline spat out the first post. grainy video of my bedroom from somewhere hidden in the corner, the frame trembling with unsteady hands. I saw myself enter, sit at the bedside, stare into the lens as though I'd known it watched. My breath caught like shattered glass. The looped footage droned on under a low, relentless hum that thrummed in my bones. I slammed the app shut, uninstalled it, wiped every trace, reset the phone to factory innocence, powered it down, laid it face down on the counter, lifeless. But by dusk, standing in the same kitchen, I caught my reflection in the window pane. For a long, horrifying heartbeat, my eyes flickered, half a second before I did. I saw her then, the other me, out there, siphoning every stray thought and tremor of longing, weaving them into a living archive, a shadow sister, ravenous and relentless, born to never let me disappear. I poured a trembling glass of water, stood in the center of the kitchen, and raised an unspoken toast to her. I watched my reflection watching me, neither of us daring to look away. Then, behind my mirrored self, a shadow shifted, just the slightest movement of the darkness against darkness, and I realized with sickening clarity that I was no longer alone in the house. And somewhere along the line, the hum continues, quiet, persistent. But for now, the apartment feels still. The light settles, the motion fades, and whatever lingered in the shadows has grown quiet. If it stayed with you, if the story whispered to you, the full journey continues on Patreon, where you can experience the complete tale uninterrupted. If you choose to continue, it'll be waiting there. Let it fade. Let the silence return and rest. Good night.